Hi, I'm Kesenya and welcome to this week's Guiding Star Astrology Weather Report, where we're going to be looking at the astral sky ahead for us all this week and what it might entail. I'm your Astro Weather Girl, so thank you so much for joining me. You may be wondering why I am kitted out like I've just stepped out of Get Smart or That Girl or one of those fabulous 1960s shows. Well, there is a very good reason why I am channeling the energy of the late 60s. So bear with my kooky outfit here, but you'll find out as we listen to the introduction just why I am channeling the late 60s, apart from the fact that I love that era, fashion-wise and music-wise and everything. There is a very good astrological reason why I am embracing that particular time for this reading. So stick with me for that one. Before we get to the intro and then following that, we'll look at each individual sign and what is happening and what it means this week astrologically. Before we get to that, I just want to mention that I do have my astro wheels. Here's one of them currently for sale. And as such, I want to just promote them here, but also I'm at the end of my first production run, so to speak, with these astro wheels. So I only have a couple left. If you want one and would like to purchase one, I'd encourage you to do so fairly soon, because I'm not sure if I'm going to do a second run or not on these. They've been very, very popular, but I'm just weighing up the cost effectiveness at the moment from a business point of view. So if you would like an astro wheel for yourself, for your wall at home, or if you're planning on doing astro YouTube videos yourself, then I'd encourage you to pop over to my website, www.guidingstar.astrology.com, and place an order for an astro wheel, because I've only got a couple left in this production run. And depending on the interest that I get will depend on whether I do another production run of these little items that have been had a lot of interest and been quite popular. So do pop over if you are interested in an astro wheel. And now to the weather. So what is happening in the astral skies this week that's going to impact us? Well, there are two energies playing out that you will have heard every astrologer online talking about. Very, very powerful energies that we're going to feel for the week ahead, and possibly for the next 6 months ahead, actually. So this is why it's quite important. We're going to discuss these two energies now. They're both occurring on the 1st of August. I am intending to release this video on the 1st of August, so just in time to look at these energies and review what they're going to bring us in the weeks ahead. So on the 1st of August, the first thing we're going to see happening is we're going to have Mercury turning direct. Hooray! At last! Yay! Nobody likes Mercury retrograde. So the interesting fact about this particular direct motion of Mercury is that it's occurring at 23 degrees of Cancer down here. I'll just put an arrow. That's him there. 23 degrees of Cancer, which happens to be 1 degree off the degree of the eclipse. The last full moon eclipse occurred on the 17th of July, and it happened at 24 degrees of Cancer and 24 degrees of Capricorn, when the Sun and the Moon were opposite one another. So this degree has been activated very recently by the powerful eclipse, and Mercury turning direct on there is going to revisit that energy and what was playing out for us at that time and what the eclipse intended to bring us. So essentially what Mercury is going to be doing when he turns direct here is bringing up the eclipse energy, which is about rising into your destiny and doing whatever it takes to push you into the new state of being. Mercury is going to reactivate that, and it's going to correlate to events that will be to do with what Mercury rules in your chart. We'll talk about that when we get to each individual sign. But generally when Mercury turns direct, it is a time of now moving forward. You might have spent the last couple of weeks with Mercury retrograde reevaluating your business ideas or your plans or what you're learning. You might have had to revisit some relearning thing. I've been going over a lot of my old courses so that I can just tweak my knowledge and upgrade, because I have Saturn conjunct Mercury in my chart, which means repetition, repetition, repetition to get it in the old noggin. So you may, while Mercury is retrograde, be revisiting things like this, relearning, reworking old contracts, looking through old contracts and old business ideas and business plans and propositions and old marketing strategies and reviewing them. It's a good time for doing those sorts of things in Mercury retrograde. It does serve a very valuable purpose, Mercury retrograde, contrary to what everybody seems to think. It has a really valuable purpose to go back and dot the I's and cross the T's. So you can actually, when Mercury goes direct, begin to take action now. To take action on all those, maybe the marketing ideas that you've reworked. Now you can implement them and put them into being. If you've been working on a project and developing, brainstorming ideas and perhaps collaborating with teammates on how can we make this work, now is the time when Mercury goes direct on the 1st of August to actually start taking affirmative action around this new project and its implementation rather than just the planning stages. So it is a time when new opportunities can present themselves for action taking, so to speak. You can even go buy that new computer now, or buy that new car, or buy that, whatever other technology and advancements that Mercury rules. Now you can go and invest in those things. It's not advisable to go get a computer repaired during Mercury retrograde or that sort of thing, even a car repaired. So now you can actually take action about going and getting that computer replaced or repaired or all those sorts of things. It's advisable to do that now that Mercury is direct. If you want to release some sort of advertising or marketing campaign, it's now a good time to do that once Mercury is direct. We are moving forward now. We can take, forward motion with everything that Mercury represents. On a general level, we'll talk about our personal charts shortly. But the degree of the eclipse is important. As I said, eclipse energy is still active. In fact, eclipse energy remains active for 6 months, essentially, until the next round of eclipses occur. And as you'll see when I get to talking about the next energy, the degrees are very sensitive. Degrees in the chart are very sensitive to activation that occurs there. So be aware of that. Whatever you've got sitting there has been triggered and will tend to be active and sensitive for the next 6 months or so. Not only that, but if we have a transit to this point over the next 6 months or so, we can get a reactivation. Now, it mightn't be a big sort of explosion in our life, but it can be a subtle reactivation of the energy of the eclipse and what it brought us, or it might be bringing in something else to support what the purpose of the eclipse was all about in our lives, which is the up-leveling of our trajectory into our destiny. So here Mercury is turning direct on that very active point in the sky. So like I said, any planets making significant connections to this point over the next 6 months are going to trigger again that eclipse energy that we can then feel, especially if the eclipse was on a personal point in our chart. And we talked about this a couple of videos ago, how to recognize where and when in your chart something is being activated by eclipse energy. So the question then is, what does Mercury rule in your personal chart that might be getting activated? This is whatever Mercury rules in your personal chart. So he's going to, I'll just clarify that, he's going to be causing you to reassess things and rework and revisit during retrograde period everything that Mercury rules generally, and I've described those things a moment ago. And when he moves direct, then we can take action on those things, all the general things that Mercury rules: small business, marketplace ideas, marketing, advertising, learning, teaching, reading, communicating, all of these areas, plus the little nitty-gritty things like cars and computers and communication equipment and so forth that Mercury rules. They're the specific things that are ruled by Mercury. In your chart, Mercury is going to rule an area of life that is impacted by whatever Mercury is doing in the sky. So, and wherever Mercury sits in your chart too. So when Mercury is now going direct, it means that you can now begin to take forward action with whatever it is that Mercury personally rules in your personal chart. The day of your birth, a chart is basically the map of a moment in time, and you are the working embodiment of that moment in time, which just blows my mind. I think it's wonderful. So whatever Mercury rules is going to receive a charge of support at this time when Mercury goes direct, and it can bring in an experience or activate some kind of outer world, outside our soul, so to speak, in our bodily experience, activate some kind of event or experience that can help you move more towards your destiny now. Because remember, the eclipse point represents moving into our destiny. Mercury and what it rules in your chart will, crossing this point and going direct and moving forward, will activate momentum in the areas of life ruled by Mercury that will correlate to you being able to move forward more now into your destiny, to reach that fullness of what your soul has incarnated to experience. We're all on a trajectory, we're all on a path of growth throughout this incarnation, and it doesn't end with this incarnation. Then we reincarnate and come back and continue the trajectory of growth and movement in consciousness back towards source, towards complete love. So that's a whole philosophical discussion. I do love philosophy, but not for a YouTube video. So what we are doing here is moving more towards there's no end point, moving more towards learning, up the ladder of enlightenment, so to speak. And Mercury and what it rules in the chart is going to activate and support and help that by bringing in some kind of event. So we will look at that when we get to each individual sign. Now to the second energy that's playing out. Well, this is why I happen to be channeling 99, Barbara Eden, This is why, Barbara Eden, she was I Dream of Jeannie, wasn't she? Barbara Feldon, I'll get it right. So this is why I'm dressed 1960s. It's going to correlate to what I'm going to talk to you about, which is the square that is occurring now this week and on the 1st of August between Uranus here and the new moon in Leo. Uranus will be squaring the new moon that is occurring in Leo. Now I'll talk about the new moon in just a minute. Last weekend for my birthday, I took my children down to Melbourne to see the Revolutionaries exhibition at the museum, which if you're in Melbourne, Australia, it's a fantastic exhibition to go and see. I highly recommend it. But I love this era. I love the 1960s, and I love it not just because of the fashion, not just because of the music, although those things do, excite me, but I love this era because it's all about revolution and it's all about personal power by the people being taken back. It's a time when we had, protests and uprisings regarding the role of women, regarding the Vietnam War, regarding race relations and civil rights. There was so much activation all over the world at that time regarding revolution, from sticking it to the man, breaking away from the authorities that had been in place for years and years and years, which was, generally speaking, and no offense to white men who are watching this, but it was older, white, male-dominated institutions that were running the show. And people were like, this is not equal, this is not fair, our voices are not being represented, our voices are not being heard. And of course in the 1960s we had all these wonderful movements that rose up in revolution. We also had the hippie movement that was sort of a movement of anti-establishment, but in a way that was much more about peace and love and understanding and all those themes from the late 1960s. So it was a very empowering time for a lot of people whose voices had not been able to be heard for maybe 100 years or so, or more. Like, you really want to get into things, thousands of years really. But it was a period of time that was highly revolutionary. And if you look back at the last century that we've lived, of all the eras, the late 1960s was really impactful in creating the environmental movement, the feminist movement, racial relations, movements against war, movements towards more peace in the world. Fabulous time in history. Why was this? Well, astrologically, we had Pluto and Uranus conjuncting in the sign of Virgo. And this is what brought about this energy in humanity at the time. Pluto conjunct Virgo. And as I walked around this exhibition in Melbourne, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I am immersed here in this exhibition. I am immersed in the conjunction of Pluto and Uranus. Uranus is revolution, sticking it to the man. That's my favorite phrase for Uranus, sticking it to the man, you know, saying defiantly, I will not listen to this. I am liberated. I am seeking empowerment. I am seeking my truth. Uranus energy. At the same time, Pluto was conjunct with Uranus, and Pluto is taking back personal power. It is strong. It is, you know, activating the willpower of people individually and obviously at that time very collectively too. So it was a really radical time in history, very, very powerful. And life throughout thousands of years moves in waves of change. So that was a particular wave of energetic change that came over the planet, and it's now carried in the individual charts of people born in the late 60s, sort of 65 to 69, early 70s. So these people carry this signature of revolution and personal power in their own lives, but collectively it was happening on the planet at that time. Now, this is where I get to what I wanted to talk about, which is that because revolution, change, up-leveling, growth comes in waves in our personal lives, but also in the collective experience, we had a wave in the 1960s of revolution. So I looked ahead to see when is this next wave of much needed change and revolution going to be happening in the same way. And in my research, 2104 will be the next time that Pluto and Uranus make a conjunction, and that will last for quite a few years. So there will be another era in 2104. We won't be alive to see it, but some people might be. Some people born sort of recently will be alive to see it. A revolutionary change, the next wave of that energy will unfold, and it will take humanity to the next level in environmental, you know, environmental awareness, equality, social justice, civil rights, and these sorts of things. The next wave will happen, and I would love to be on the planet to see what occurs at that time and see how it unfolds. We'll also get, you know, visionary new fashion and music and things like that, just like we did back in the late 1960s. So that's a really exciting thing to know that this is going to occur again. There'll be a new wave and a new stepping up the ladder of enlightenment for humanity at that time. And there are other little steps up the ladder that occur between now and then as well. But that type of energy is going to be present again. And guess where it's going to be present? Guess where it's going to be happening? 6 degrees of Taurus. Exactly where Uranus is right now. So Uranus is currently at 6 degrees of Taurus, making a square to the new moon. This is in, well, roughly 84 years is what it takes for Uranus to go around the horoscope. So we're looking at roughly 84 years, and Uranus will be back in the same spot, but Pluto, who is currently here in Capricorn and moves incredibly slowly, will have only gone this far and will be there. So Pluto will be making this conjunction with Uranus in 2104 at 6 degrees of Taurus. So the energy will be a little different to what Pluto conjunct Uranus was in Virgo. But the reason I want to talk about that, I mean, it's too far ahead for most people watching this video to impact their lives, and you know who is really going to be embracing the next 84 years in terms of that energy. Like, it's just too far down the track for us on a personal level. But it's interesting collectively, and it's interesting because, and this is just my theory here, Uranus, I feel, is activating this energy that's in the future. So there is no coincidence that this current exhibit that has just started in Melbourne, and it's going to be on until October, is running at the same time as Uranus is conjunct the 6 degrees of Taurus, where Pluto and Uranus will connect next time they meet. So there's no coincidences. Astrology is mind-boggling when you get into the nitty-gritty of it. Here we have this exhibition running in Melbourne, showcasing the energy of the last Pluto-Uranus conjunction, while Uranus, the future, forward-looking, forward-thinking, is on the point where they're next going to conjunct in 84 years' time. No coincidences. I love this stuff. So what is happening now is actually, this is telling us that what is happening now is actually building towards humanity's future in 84 years' time. What is unfolding now is setting up events that will be triggered when this point is activated by the conjunction in 84 years' time. And similarly, the new moon in Leo being squared by Uranus, it's doing the same for you, not for 84 years' time, but it's building something for your future. Uranus is the future. Uranus is forward-looking, it's progressive, it's revolutionary, it's about change. So this connection of Uranus on a future, very important point in the sky, making a connection to the new moon is about building change for your future as well. Because also on this day, as I said, Mercury is going direct, also about building your future, your destiny, because it's activating the eclipse point. So the energy on the 1st of August is very forward looking. It's about what is coming up for you. It's building your future. It's activating setting up events, setting up things that are going to happen to support your future and your destiny. Personally, I'm not talking collectively, although it will impact collectively, but I'm talking for you personally. Now, new moons are about beginnings. They are about starting something fresh. It's like the universe hands you a blank sheet of paper and says, what do you want from this month? And of course, it takes a month for the moon to travel the whole way around the horoscope and back to make the next new moon. So you are starting on a whole new beginning for the month with a new moon. It's a great time at a new moon to, you know, get that blank piece of paper and write down your wishes and hopes and dreams and your plans for the month ahead, and then offer them to the universe. You can do that ceremonially, or you can pray, you can share about what is, what you want from the month ahead. If you offer that to the universe, then you might be surprised by what comes up and what manifests for you because of your intentions that were set at the time of the new moon. Now, in the sign of Leo, it's all about creating, and by the square with Uranus too, it's about creating unique, words get out properly, unique self-expression. Leo is self-expression. The sun is our creativity, amongst other things, and other planets also represent creativity, but the sun is our creativity. In Leo, it's strongest sign placement for the sun. It is about unique, Uranus is unique, self-expression to the world. That is something that you will utilize to build for your future at this time. It's about self-love. Sun, Leo, is all about loving the self, honoring the self. I am valuable, I am precious, I am special. And it's about doing that in a radical way with the square from Uranus. It's about radical self-love at this time. It's about energized joy in life. The energy of Leo and the sun is joy, it's pleasure, it's happiness, it's, effervescent. And with Uranus making this connection, it's going to energize the capacity for you to implement joy in your life. And so this is the time for energized joy and revolutionary leadership. The sun is a leadership planet. In the sign of the king, Leo is the king. And the archetype of the king or the queen, we won't go gender oriented here, the king or the queen, it's that regal energy. And here in sun in Leo, making a new moon connection, energized by Uranus square, revolutionary leadership. We might find that we are given the opportunity to offer revolutionary leadership to the world at this time, that we'll get a new opportunity, a new chance to establish some kind of leadership that is, earth-changing. Most likely for most people, it's going to happen on a personal level in their own life. They are going to revolutionize the way they are leading their family, their friendship groups, their school, their church, their community. Revolutionary leadership will unfold for you on a personal level. We might also find that that's happening too on a big collective level, but we won't go into politics and that sort of agenda at this time. I steer clear of all that stuff, just not interested. I think they all suck, quite frankly, but that's the Uranus in me that's very anarchist. Aside from that, I would encourage you at this time to assess in your own life how you are expressing unique self-expression and creativity, radical self-love, love for the self, honoring of the self, energizing your joy. How can you do that more? How can you offer revolutionary leadership to your sphere of influence? Things like this, if you analyze this, if you think about this and you set intentions regarding these realms of life, then you can set yourself up for quite a brilliant, liberated future. If you radicalize the way you are leading your family, for example, the way you are parenting your children, Moon is connected to that. If you radicalize that, then your whole family life can be impacted for the better by offering some sort of creative, new, quirky manner of parenting and leadership in the family realm. So analyze, how can I revolutionize my leadership, my inspiration towards my children that I'm offering towards my children? How can I offer radical self-love to me? I haven't been honoring myself. I haven't been nurturing my heart. Leo and the sun are connected to matters of the heart. I haven't been honoring my heart's desire, my need to express myself. How can I revolutionize that to serve me well into my future, to bless my future? So it's a real opportunity to make changes for the better that will help you into your personal future. So the square aspect from Uranus, it makes us push for results. If it was a trine, we would find that the opportunities to revolutionize these things would just plop into our lap. Oh, thanks very much, universe. No worries, off I go with my life. But no, this is a time where you're going to have to take the action. You're going to have to take the energetic momentum. You're going to have to implement it. We need to take action this week if we want to change our future because of the square from Uranus to the new moon. So use the abundant creative intelligence that's now available out in the ether to channel independence, to channel revolution in your own life, to channel change and do it your way, to bring about the needed progressive change in your social circles, friendship circles, leadership circles, creative influence circles, all these circles of life. How can you channel independence, revolution and change in your life? You will need to take action. So let's give an example. That might mean, I've talked about family influence, maybe in your work life. One of my friends, I'll use her as an illustration, I hope she doesn't mind, but she got to a point where she was like, screw this job, and she's kind of channeling this energy earlier than it actually manifested. It's probably triggering something in her life. She's channeling it this week, a couple of days before the energy actually unfolds, so she's feeling into it earlier, which can happen. So especially as the eclipse energy point is being activated too, so it all ties in. My friend was like, screw this job, I can't do this anymore, I am not liberated in this place of employment, it is killing me. And she went in and said, I'm quitting, this is not my last day, I'll give you 2 weeks, but I've had enough. This is what we can find with this energy being activated. We want change that liberates us and changes things for our future and what unfolds for us in the future. So channel your, I'm not saying go quit your job. You'll know if you need to. The universe is going to make it happen. You'll feel the momentum, but you'll need to take action. That's the message of this new moon. You'll need to take action for what you're feeling and what needs to be changed and revolutionized in your own personal life. You'll also want to express yourself now without inhibition, no boundaries. You might really connect with that screw you world kind of attitude, very revolutionary 1960s sticking it to the man kind of stuff, this rebellious energy that is happening with these degrees. Remember, this is the degree that in 84 years time is going to be activated by more of that rebellious generational energy, and we're probably feeling into it 84 years in advance, but it's still there. Is time time linear? Maybe not. So it is highly possible that we're actually channeling this future energy at the moment and can do so in our personal lives activated by this new moon. So I want to encourage you all, use this energy this week to break free from any patterns that are holding you back. Take action towards a fairer, more equal, more just society for everyone around you, but also for yourself personally too, and for the world as a whole, because what the late 60s did was brought change that has been so empowering to so many people. And we can begin to channel that in our own life and collectively for the world now too. So that is why I'm dressed like 99, who I adore, or that girl. But it is, all humor and jokes aside, it is a powerful, powerful energy. So now I want to do a little personal bit that everybody loves from the timestamps. We're going to look at what Mercury moving direct will trigger in each person's life. So let's begin with Aries. There we are, Aries rising. You can also look for your sun and your moon as well. They're all relevant, but the rising sign is going to be strongest, felt most strongly. So essentially, Mercury going direct is going to move you forward with some kind of momentum towards your destiny that is playing out in the realm for Aries of the 3rd house and the 6th house. And this is because Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo for Aries people. The 3rd house in whole sign astrology and the 6th house. So what does this mean? Well, you might get some forward momentum from your a teacher, or you're learning. Maybe you've been studying something and suddenly you really can move forward with a school project or an assignment or a thesis or something that you've been working on. Or maybe it's correlated to a small business that now you can move forward with. You've had this idea in the back of your head for a small business thing that you want to start implementing, and boom, now you can move forward. It's going to change your destiny. Now you can move forward with that 3rd house idea of a small business. Or maybe you've wanted to upgrade your skills. Maybe you like doing woodwork or jewelry making or something, metalwork, and you decide to do a jewelry making course at this time. Can definitely be something that unfolds for you. Upgrading your skills, improving your knowledge, improving the work of your hands, so to speak, practical things, crafting, any type of learning, any type of communications. Now also for Aries rising, Virgo is ruled by Mercury, so there can be some forward momentum with your work, what you do to pay the bills. Also 6th house is how you serve the world. You might have been contemplating ways that you can serve and help humanity, help the underdog, help people who are less fortunate than yourself, and now's the time you can take action around those things. When Mercury turns direct, you can take action towards perhaps doing a bit of charitable work or hospital work, or doing something in your daily life, what changing your for example, changing your routine, so that instead of getting up in the morning to go for a run and it's icy and it's cold here in Australia in the middle of winter, you decide, I'm going to go for a run when I get home from work, and I'm changing my routine. I'm going to move forward with this new direction that I've got. I'm going to start going to the gym instead of going to the running around the cold lake or whatever it is. So there's a change in what you're doing with regard to your service for the world, your practical support, fixing problems for people, working in a soup kitchen or working for a not-for-profit or something. Changes to your daily health routine are seen by the 6th house energy, and Mercury moving forward gives you the momentum and the enthusiasm and the drive to take things in a new direction and take things to the next level regarding those areas. So that's Aries rising. Taurus rising people, who are really feeling that Uranus at the 6th degree kind of thing, no doubt. Taurus rising people, their 2nd house and their 5th house are ruled by Mercury, Virgo and Gemini, 2nd house and 5th house in whole sign astrology. So This means that the forward momentum for you, you'll notice some kind of shift or change in your outer world circumstances when Mercury goes direct on the 1st of August, will unfold for you financially, maybe through self-love, maybe through the possessions that you have. There might be, you might be able to start, you've been thinking, oh, I really want to add another shag painting to my collection. And then Mercury goes direct, you go buy a new shag painting to add to your collection of mid-century modern paintings and art. So the second house is collections, possessions, acquisitions, things like that. So you can actually take some forward moving action and momentum towards the things represented by that house. Also for you guys, Mercury rules the 5th house. You can take some action if you happen to be Taurus rising around your love life. Maybe you've been on, I don't know, internet dating apps for the last couple of weeks and why am I here? This is a load of crap. And you got really discouraged. But now when Mercury goes direct, you can actually get something happening. You can take some action. You can contact somebody, or you might find somebody you like because there's some momentum around 5th house things, love, dating, courtship kind of stuff. And of course you've got Uranus making a trine to this house for you at the moment too, so definitely can be activating internet kind of dating scenarios. But yeah, anything to do with 5th house things can have now some forward momentum, some forward movement when Mercury goes direct on the 1st of August. Children, relationships with children can have a bit of forward momentum. There might have been some frustration around kids for you guys, or just not being able to connect as well as you normally would with your children. And now when Mercury goes direct, boom, kids and you're having a great time together. You're having fun, enjoying some entertainment together. You and your kids are just getting along so much better now. That's just one of the ways that can play out. Let's take a look at Gemini rising. For Gemini rising people, Mercury, it rules your 1st house, obviously. Mercury rules Gemini, and it also rules your 4th house. So what this can look like is that you will get some forward momentum and now can take action around 1st house and 4th house things. For example, maybe you've been thinking, if you're a Gemini rising person, about I wouldn't mind moving home, or I wouldn't mind doing some renos, or and you've been thinking about it and planning it and adding up the costs and weighing up, can I afford it, and so on. And then Mercury goes direct and you're like, you know what, yes I can. Boom, in you go. You hire a builder, he tears down the bathroom wall and starts retiling, and bang, you've got a whole new bathroom. So you will be reevaluating while Mercury is retrograde, home life, what you do in your home life, your connection to your ancestors, your lineage, your heritage, your roots, but also practical things around the home. And then when Mercury goes direct, you can start to actually put some energy in moving forward around those areas and realms of life. Equally, how you show up in the world. So you might have been thinking for the last couple of weeks while Mercury is retrograde, as a Gemini rising person, you know what, I hate my hair color. Too many grays coming through. I've got to do something about this. I've got to change the way I look because grey hair is not my style, or and so once Mercury moves direct, it's like, right, I'm going down to the hairdresser. I'm going to get that new color, that new cut, going to change it up, going to actually take action towards my future, which will be having, funky new haircut, or, taking all the dye out of it and just hitting the grey, embracing the grey, these kinds of things. So you will find there'll be a lot more momentum now to move forward with things regarding your appearance, how you show up in the world, how the world perceives you, that can manifest now. And it doesn't have to be hair. I just go like hair. Okay, let's talk about hair. But it could be anything to do with the body. It could be how, your clothes, how you might decide I want a whole new wardrobe because I don't like I've been thinking, I'm looking at my clothes, gosh, they're boring and dull. I want to start wearing 1960s outfits. So you go down to the local vintage shop and find every 1960s outfit you possibly can. Just crazy examples. But you're going to want to move forward with some ideas you've had over Mercury retrograde about how you present to the world, how you show up in the world, how you bodily incarnate in this reality. So now we want to take a peek at Cancer rising. Cancer rising people will see the Mercury energy playing out in the 12th house and the 3rd house. So for Cancer rising people, this can actually be really quite interesting. You are going to want to, you'll notice some change and some forward movement now, perhaps in relation to, let's say, a holiday. 12th house is getting away from the ordinary everyday realities. That can be going to an ashram, it can be going overseas, it can be just taking a break and relaxing. I mean, 12th house energy likes to have a rest, you know, it's a house of sleep. So you can find, you might have been planning for a holiday, and by holiday I don't mean going to some big expensive resort. It can be simply, you know what, I know that mum and dad are away for a while, I'm going to go up to their house and just chill, you know, get out of my own territory, get out of my own house and be in someone else's home. Mum and dad's house is empty, I'm going to hang there for a while and put my feet up and not have to do the washing and not have to clean this and that and not have to renovate. I am taking a break. So it doesn't have to be expensive. When I say holiday, it just means taking a break from your ordinary everyday reality. So for you Cancer rising people, you might have been thinking about, I need a break. This is too much. I just need to rest for a while. Now, when Mercury turns direct, you can actually energize that and activate it. You know, you go and have a break. Find a friend who's, I don't know, got to go out of town for business or something, and just say, look, I'm going to come hang at your place for a couple of days and I'll look after your house, I'll feed your cat, that sort of stuff. Go have a break. Go to a day spa, you know. It's great when Mercury turns direct and you're Cancer rising, because you can actually put some forward momentum into a bit of self-care this way. Spiritual life too, taking spiritual action in your life is now favored too. So, or taking creative action with Mercury ruling your 12th house, Cancer rising people, or moon or sun, if that's what you're listening to for this one. You can put some energy towards creative action. This is the 12th house is the house of creative, divine creativity, divine downloads of inspiration. So if you might find Mercury going direct gives you more divine downloads of inspiration that you can put into creating like a book or a work of art or a new song or something that can actually bring you a lot of benefit and blessing into the future, because this is what this energy is all about. It's activating the point of the eclipse. It's about taking you further into your destiny. So also Mercury for Cancer rising people rules the 3rd house. So you might find that some sort of communication opportunity is now activated and has the momentum to move forward. Maybe you've been thinking about how you can market yourself better or do some advertising during Mercury retrograde. You know, what are my options? What are they going to cost? How can I promote myself better? Mercury goes direct and suddenly the opportunity avails itself and you take action and you push forward with the momentum of the advertising campaign that you've been thinking about. And because of that, your whole future then blossoms in front of you. You take action, do some marketing, it really brings in some results now, and your whole future trajectory, your destiny is altered because of this action that you've taken with Mercury ruling the 3rd house. It's also the house of learning, skills and abilities that we have, connection to siblings, our brothers and sisters, and also our relatives like Uncle John and Auntie Sue, you know, other people who are our relatives. So connections with those people can also be activated and have some momentum at that time that can serve you well into your future destiny too. So Leo rising people, gosh, there's a lot of action in your house in the coming weeks. Woo! Good to direct a bit of energy out of Capricorn Cancer for a while here. So this is going to be Mercury turning direct is going to activate for you your 11th house and your 2nd house. So for you guys, this is an interesting time where you can have some forward momentum now revealing itself relating to 2nd house things, which is what is ruled by Mercury. For example, that might be you know, your car. Maybe you've got a, like, 2nd house is our resources for living, what we need to live a good life, like shelter, home, food, in these days transport, but 3rd house is actually ruled connected to transportation, but the 2nd house is like our car, you know, it's what we own, it's our possessions that help us in our everyday life. So there's a little subtle difference there, but an important one. So with Mercury ruling 2nd house, maybe your collection of vehicles that your family owns. Maybe your daughter's got a car, you've got a car, your husband's got a car. There can be, some forward momentum about, you know what, my daughter's been thinking she needs to change her car because it's old and it's dangerous. If it breaks down, you know, I'm going to worry for her safety. So you've been thinking this for the last couple of weeks. Along comes Mercury turning direct. Your next door neighbour's selling their 2013 model car and it's perfect and it's much big upgrade from what she's got. So move ahead, take some forward momentum and get your daughter a car that's going to be safer and, you know, more secure, because second house is connected to safety and security, feeling like the universe has got your back. So this is one of the manifestations of Mercury turning direct. You might actually, and that's only one example, anything to do with possessions, anything to do with what you own and your resources for living can get some forward momentum now. You might buy a new work of art to add to your collection. You might invest in, you know, some new feature in your garden, you know, or some new acquisition for your wardrobe. You know, it can work out in any of these realms that you can take some forward action now regarding what you own and the resources that you had for living. Also for Leo rising, you might find that there's some forward momentum now with 11th house things. Groups of people taking, you know, putting yourself out there. I mean, Leo's not backwards and coming forward. It likes to be, here I am, look at me, let me be seen. And Leo energy, when Mercury turns direct, can really come out in front of groups of people in that element of leadership, particularly like on the internet, maybe in some sort of a humanitarian movement. Like I said, these are highly influential times, so maybe you might join some sort of humanitarian movement or activism kind of project now. You've been thinking, you know what, I'm really passionate about the Me Too movement, or whatever it happens to be that gets you going. I'm really passionate about that. I'm going to start taking some serious action about that. And you've been thinking about it all through Mercury retrograde. Mercury goes direct and you're like, right, I'm channeling my Leo leadership capacity now. Boom. I'm going to, you know, start up the Victorian chapter of the Me Too movement, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and you start taking action around humanitarian causes for equality and justice. 11th house, and you might, you know, pull in some of your friends to join you, and you know, it's a house of friendship, so there's a collaborative energy there too. So this can be very very interesting times for Leo rising people when the Mercury goes direct, and you can start using this momentum to move forward. Now for Virgo rising people, the momentum to move forward with Mercury going direct is going to be felt in your 10th house and your 1st house, because Mercury rules you. It's your rising 1st house lord, rising sign 1st house lord, and it's also rules your 10th house. So this might be felt, let's think of some examples. You might decide with Mercury ruling your 1st house of image, you're going to overhaul your image. You're going to change your image. You've been thinking all through Mercury retrograde, you know what, I don't like my shoes. My shoes suck. They're all got holes in them. They're all falling apart, and they look dowdy, and I want to be colorful and funky and creative now. So I am going to overhaul my shoe collection. Yay, sounds like fun. So Mercury going direct can give you the momentum that you need to change your image. Might be through simply changing your shoes and collection, throwing out the old ones and getting some really funky, cool new shoes. You might get the momentum from Mercury to change some other aspect of how you present to the world. It mightn't be your physical body. It could be, you know, everybody thinks that I'm not very intelligent because of XYZ. You know what? I'm going to prove to them that I am intelligent, and I'm going to show up in the world as someone who has a brain, who has thoughts. You know, I'm going to start a blog maybe. You know, Mercury rules communication generally, and for Virgo rising people, you know, you want to change the perception people have, or you want to move forward with a new perception of how the world sees you. So you start a blog where you discuss intellectual topics with a weekly post or something. Mercury is to connect on social media and do those sorts of things. So you might find that you take action towards changing the image that the world has of you, or reviewing it, or upgrading it, or just making some forward momentum in that realm of life. Now also Mercury for you guys rules the 10th house of career. So you might find that this week coming up, you get some momentum around your career, around how you connect with authority figures and bosses. Particularly the 10th house is connected to the legacy that we leave the world. And so you might have, you know, an idea in your head of the legacy that you want to leave, what you want to be known for, and you can actually now implement some actions around that. You know, I often use Vincent van Gogh to describe the legacy. It was his life and it was his passion and it was his joy. He didn't make any money from it at the time when he was alive, but look at the legacy that he left. Very 10th house, a magnificent legacy. And so you might actually take something, like, let's say you want to be the next Vincent van Gogh, and you decide, I'm going to do, you know, start painting one painting a week because I want to leave a legacy of amazing paintings. Whether they make me any money or not, I don't care. I have decided with this recent Mercury retrograde that I'm going to take some action now, some move forward with leaving a beautiful legacy for the world, whatever that looks like for you. Could be in your current career, it could be in something that you've always aspired to do, but that's 10th house is to leave an imprint, leave an impact on the world and be remembered and known for something. So you might be taking action in that regard. Okay, so Virgo rising to Libra rising. Libra rising people put Mercury rulership in realms connected to the 12th house and the 9th house. So it's in these areas of life that you're going to have some forward momentum when Mercury goes direct on the 1st of August. So you might have been contemplating and thinking about your spiritual life a lot over the last couple of weeks with Mercury retrograde, going internal with it, reviewing things like, you know, I'm just not spiritually in the place that I want to be in. I want more love. I want more compassion in my life. How do I display that? How do I activate that desire that I've got to be a more compassionate person if you're Libra rising? Well, Mercury goes direct and you can actually start to implement practical ideas around being more compassionate. So you might, you know, during Mercury retrograde, you might have found that an opportunity availed itself to help out at the local school with disabled children or something, and so you actually, Mercury goes direct and now you pop up at the school every Monday and you work with the disabled children to help them in their learning experience and to support the teachers. So you offer some act of compassion or charity to the world through Mercury going direct, and this can actually impact your long-term future through whatever pops up now. Mercury ruling the 12th house of compassion and kindness. The 12th house also rules getting away from it all, going overseas, having a holiday. It rules escaping its spirituality, its creativity as well. And it's also the house of divine downloads of information. So when Mercury goes direct, all these realms could be activated, or one of these realms might be activated, even in a subtle way in your life. You might just get a divine download of spiritual information when Mercury goes direct that goes straight to the core of what you might have been mentally struggling with for the last couple of weeks while Mercury's retrograde. If you are Libra rising, Gemini is ruling your 9th house here as well. And 9th house is inspirational figures, mentors, people who inspire us to live better lives. So up until the 1st of August, you know, you might have been longing for a mentor, looking for a mentor. I remember back, oh gosh, must have been about 2012, 2013. I was praying to the universe for a mentor to talk about astrology with. Funnily enough, I'd done so much study by myself, but none of my friends were into it, and I felt very much alone. And I had been praying for the universe to send me a mentor, and the universe did. It listens to our prayers, and I received a mentor that came into my life who is one of my dearest friends that I will, you know, treasure for probably many lifetimes to come, truth be told. This is the kind of thing that can unfold when Mercury goes direct. You know, you've been longing and praying and going internal with, dear universe, I really want a mentor. I want someone to inspire me and hold my hand and help me and guide me. The universe can bring that into being when Mercury goes direct. You will be required to take action, though, in hunting out a mentor. So you might need to, just say you were like me, like back when I was looking for an astrology mentor, you might need to actually get some readings off good astrologers and see if there's a connection there, and whether, you know, they might be willing to mentor you and support you if you're interested in developing an astrology mentorship kind of situation. Or it might be some other field of life, it might be some other field of higher learning that you're looking for some sort of teacher and guide and guru to support you. Maybe you're interested in philosophy or quantum physics, or maybe you're interested in understanding medicine, or it could be any realm of life. But you, I'm just using the mentor idea as an example of how this can play out. But when Mercury goes direct, you can actually find a mentor comes into your life through some sort of action that you take to connect with a mentor, to connect with someone who's got a belief system you want to find out about or grow through or expand your mind through. All right, so Libra rising. Now we're going to look at Scorpio rising. Mercury for you rules the 11th house, and it also rules the 8th house for you guys. So you will find that there is new forward momentum for Scorpio rising people that occurs when Mercury goes direct, and it's going to relate to 11th house matters. So 11th house matters are, you know, some sort of humanitarian movement or political movement, or joining a group or joining a club of some sort. So you might have been thinking during Mercury retrograde, you know, I feel a bit socially disconnected from people, and I just want to join with like-minded people who think the way I do. And then Mercury goes direct, and you discover, oh my gosh, there's a stargazing group in my town. Wow, I'm going to go join that stargazing group because I want to connect with people who are interested in going out at night and looking at the stars and actually physically observing them. So Mercury goes direct, and you discover, you get some, you know, there's this group in town that's really where I'm at. I'm going to go join them. And you're going to need to take action, because that's connected to, as I said in the intro, this Mercury retrograde turning direct period is about taking action for your future and for future benefit in your life. So you will need to, you know, go and join the group. You will need to sort of hunt them down. Where are they meeting? What time? Okay, let's clear out my schedule. I'll go and be there at that time. So that is one of the manifestations of Mercury going direct for you. Instead of thinking about connecting with like-minded people and friendship groups, you can actually take action towards that, and it will benefit you for your long-term future. Also, if you're Scorpio rising, it rules your 8th house. So there's going to be forward momentum and movement in 8th house matters. This could be some sort of financial situation, because the 8th house is connected to what we receive from others. It's also community property. So things that like the local community hall, or you know, grants from the government, grants from institutions or philanthropic societies, you know, these sorts of things. So inheritances. You might find that this, for Scorpio rising people, is a really good time. Let's say you've been thinking about, you know, you want to start some sort of a therapy business. 8th house, therapy. And Gemini is business. So you want to start some sort of therapy business, and you've got all these ideas, and it's creative, and it's bubbling away inside of you throughout Mercury retrograde, and then Mercury goes direct, and you realize, hang on, I could get a grant for this. So you take action. You go and apply for the government grant to do this therapy business with, I don't know, elderly people. Maybe it's a therapy business like having pets in an elderly nursing home, and you take your dog around every week, and you apply for a grant to support you in offering this service. Just one suggestion. Like, there's a million ways that could play out, but this is a house of therapy. It's also a house of other people's resources and community property. So, you know, you can apply for a grant. You could apply to the local council to use their hall for a yoga session or some sort of therapy group that's going to meet there. And when Mercury goes direct, you have the momentum, you have the universal support to actually take action around that, and it's going to benefit and help you in your long-term future, because it's, as I said in the intro, being activated by the eclipse degree. Sagittarius rising people, you're in for a bit of fun in the next couple of weeks when Jupiter goes direct. We can't wait for that. I'm hanging for it. But that's not this week. We'll talk about that in next week's video. But Sagittarius rising puts the rulership of Mercury in the 7th house and also the 10th house for you guys. So this is when Mercury goes direct on the 1st of August, you're going to find that there is more momentum, more forward movement towards your destiny that's going to unfold for you in realms to do with the 7th house, relationships and partnerships, and the 10th house. And so this might look like something, for example, you want a business, and you've got a new idea for a business or some sort of career, and you realize, I can't do this on my own. I'm going to need to collaborate. I'm going to need to find either a business partner or someone who can market for me or someone who can do my tax for me. So you actually, when Mercury goes direct, you can activate finding that business partnership that you need to make things work for you. The 7th house is about business partnerships, and Mercury being going direct here can give you forward momentum that's going to support you into your future regarding some sort of business collaboration and partnership. It's also a house of diplomacy and fairness and balance and harmony, and also refinement and cultural and sophistication as well. So you might find that there's some momentum, some forward momentum in those realms of life. It's also connected to marriage too. So like maybe during Mercury retrograde, your marriage was feeling a bit dry and crusty, and you're like, ugh, eye roll, I'm sick of this, you know, being in this situation. And Mercury goes direct, boom, right, let's work on our marriage. Let's go to a retreat. Let's have some time together. Let's go on a date. Let's reactivate and put some forward momentum and energy into our marriage, into our committed partnership. Definitely can unfold for Sagittarius rising people when Mercury goes direct. Not only that, but it's ruling your 10th house of career as well. So your career can get some forward momentum. You might find that maybe the boss comes to you and says, you know, I'm really happy with the work that you've been doing for the last couple of weeks. During Mercury retrograde, it's about putting in effort, 3 times as much effort as you usually would put in. So you put in all that effort over the last couple of weeks. Your boss notices, and he comes to you when Mercury goes direct and says, you know what, I'm thinking I want to, you know, help you step up the ladder. How about we work towards training you up for becoming this position or moving into this role or something like that. So there can be some forward momentum that occurs career-wise for you guys as a result of the hard work that you've done during Mercury retrograde. And it's going to set you up for the future in a much better way with career, because it's activating the Mercury turning direct is activating the eclipse, which is all about rising into our destiny. So you can find these sorts of things happen for you when Mercury has some forward momentum. Okay, if you are Capricorn rising, there we go, Cappy rising people, you will feel this energy play out for you in the 9th house and the 6th house. So this is Mercury going direct on the eclipse point, or very close to the eclipse point. So it's going to reactivate eclipse energy, which is about rising into your destiny. And when Mercury goes direct, you're going to have a lot more forward momentum with regard to achieving, and something will pop up in these realms of life that is going to help you move towards your destiny. Gemini, as the 6th house, is going to be in the field of work, what you do to pay the bills every day, how you know, the routine that you've got. So it could correlate to health and diet and well-being. It could correlate to, you know, how you serve the world, how you are, you know, how you relate to your pets. The enemies that you have is also seen by the 6th house. So Mercury going direct might give you what you need to sort of sort out some fractious relationships with people who don't have your back, with the YouTube haters. Gemini is the internet and social stuff. So you might have, you know, you might have been, let's use that as an illustration here. With Mercury retrograde, you might have been copying it on YouTube from the dickheads that like to make themselves known by being a moron. Sorry, harsh words. But you know, you've been dealing with idiots online and you know, ignoring them, and now Mercury goes direct and you're like, aha, I've got a strategy now for how I can deal with those enemies, those YouTube haters, those people who you know, run me down or criticize me. It's a very critical energy sometimes, the 6th house. So I know now how I can change that, how I can work against those people and undermine their efforts to malign me. So that can happen when Mercury goes direct and you figure it out, and you got some energy and traction in that realm. You might also, you know, it might be to do with your health. This is a house of health, or pets. pets. For example, during Mercury retrograde, for Capricorn rising people, maybe your pet was a bit under the weather, or just a bit lethargic and not very healthy. Mercury goes direct and you're like, aha, I know what's wrong. They've been eating this food that they shouldn't have been eating, you know, and you're not meant to feed dogs that, or you're not meant to feed cats that. And now I understand, I'm going to take some action, forward momentum, that's going to change the health and well-being of my pet. So you start, you know, stop feeding your cat milk and start feeding them fish or something like that. And it changes the relationship you've got with your pet and your pet's health and well-being through some kind of action that you take after Mercury turns direct. You get a realization, a piece of knowledge that comes to you. So these are just some examples of how it can play out with 6th house energy. But also for Capricorn rising, it's occurring in the 9th house. So the 9th house is connected to expansion of the mind through knowledge. And we're not talking about like practical knowledge here. We're talking about philosophical, like life and soul expansive type knowledge. So you might find Mercury going direct gives you the opportunity to expand your mind in some way, to take the momentum forward with regard to your beliefs and your understanding. So let's say during Mercury retrograde, you explored some spiritual book and you did a lot of reading and research around some kind of spiritual book that you'd been longing to get stuck into. And then Mercury goes direct and gives you the energy and momentum to start applying what you'd learned in real life. You know, you're inspired now to start practicing whatever it happens to be, mindfulness. You might start practicing some sort of esoteric practices, or you've been reading what's that book, A Course in Miracles, and suddenly, you know, it all gels. Mercury goes direct. Your head, Mercury rules the mind, your head can accept and incorporate what you've been learning, and now you put it into action. Because the 9th house is our belief systems and our our cultural awareness and our soul's expansion. So now you can put what you've been learning during Mercury retrograde into practice, and it's going to serve you well for your future and your destiny. So let's now take a look at Aquarius rising. Aquarius rising is a lovely rising sign to have. They all are. I love them all. Let me straighten that up. But Aquarius rising people is going to put Gemini energy in the 8th house and in the and in the 5th house. So when Mercury goes direct on the point of the eclipse, it's going to activate your future destiny by bringing in some kind of event, manifestation connected to 5th house things or connected to 8th house things. And 5th house things, well, actually both of these houses are connected to sexuality. So you might find that, you know, an opportunity for sexual fun and sexual pleasure comes your way. This is the house of intimacy, and this is the house of fun times. So you guys might find that there is some sexual momentum that comes into your life that mightn't have been present before, and it's really it can be very empowering for you. This is also, 5th house is the house of love affairs, and when Mercury goes direct, you might find, if you're Aquarius rising, that the opportunity to connect with a new lover arises, or to reignite the fire between you and your current lover. This is the energy here is about the matters of the heart, and so when Mercury goes direct, the matters of the heart are which is our passions, not just our sexual passions and our love passions, but our hobbies, our interests, what we get excited about. They're all activated. So things might have been a bit dry for you for the last couple of weeks with Mercury retrograde, and then Mercury goes direct and you're like, okay, now I've got momentum in this area. I have momentum to reinvigorate my love life, to put some creativity and uniqueness back into my relationship with my lover, or into my passion, into my hobbies, into my creative pursuits. Now you are fired up and you've got new ideas that you can use to channel into these areas of life that are going to help you and serve you well into the future. So actually the 5th house is the house of fame and recognition. So you might even have new innovative ideas that you can put towards, if that's your desire. It depends what's in your chart, whether you'll desire that or not, but into achieving some sort of fame and recognition and popularity at whatever level that comes. So you're going to have a lot more momentum and things can flow your way. regarding those. The 8th house for you guys is also ruled by Mercury, so when Mercury goes direct, you'll be activating 8th house matters. This can look like more opportunity to study astrology and get into some deep research regarding astrology. If you're Aquarius rising, you're highly likely to be into that anyway, and Mercury going direct might just avail many opportunities for you to do so. You might purchase Lada's predictive course. And then on the 1st of August, you can settle in and start studying it and get stuck in and you get all these revelations and realizations. And this can actually serve you well into the future, because your future, Mercury going direct is happening on the eclipse point, which is all about our destiny, where we're headed and our future and what we're rising up into. So by doing some sort of astrological research, this is a house of research, getting stuck into hidden realms and hidden, occult topics, and looking at, maybe you're even interested in studying the history of, I've just come back from Transylvania, where I went through Dracula's castle, and there was all these rooms with torture devices from medieval times, and so you're interested in studying these, torture devices. This is a house of death and rebirth and crisis experiences, and things like torture devices would be seen from this house. So you're actually interested in studying, well, what was the impact of this and why did people do this, and you get stuck into that sort of research. I mean, this is really off on a tangent, sorry guys, but if you're Aquarius rising, you might be really when Mercury goes direct, captivated by some new area of study, area of research, area of exploration that has to do with 8th house things, the occult, the hidden, the like I said, historical trauma, house of trauma, crisis events. Looking at these sorts of things, you might really start to get stuck into that sort of thing. So for Pisces rising people, the final sign we want to cover in today's video, beautiful Pisces, for you guys and for me, Mercury going direct on the eclipse point is going to change and give us some momentum towards our destiny that correlates to the 4th house and the 7th house. I like this. So we as Pisces rising people might have a lot of momentum in our life now from the 1st of August onwards regarding home. And I'll vouch for this. Like, I'll use my own life as an example, because I have been, this is really quite interesting actually, I've been chatting with my ex-husband, my first life partner, which is the sign of Virgo, and I need to do renos in my house. My house, look, it's a long story, but it needs some attention quite badly. And my ex-husband is very, very practical. He's really Virgo, well, he's not Virgo in sign, but he's certainly Virgo in the way he exhibits in the world. He's very practical. He's really good at house renos. It's the one thing I miss collaborating with him on more than anything since we've divorced 10 years ago. So my first husband is going to help me renovate my home, which we are starting to do on the 1st of August. We've been talking about it for the last week, and yeah, he's going to come and give me a hand to renovate my bathroom. So this is a perfect example of the momentum of Mercury turning direct for Pisces rising people that impacts the home and the first life partner. Now, it can happen in other realms as well. That's just my example of what's playing out in my life, but this is the house of home, but it's also connected to your heritage, family heritage, your roots, the lineage you come from, your mother, and family in general. So, your relationship with people who are your family, your children, your parents, your grandparents. These specific people, like children, parents, grandparents, they are seen from other places in the chart, but in general, as a collective, the 4th house is connected to these things. And so your relationship with these people can be activated and move forward and be more progressive, if you like, and take you more towards your destiny. So that's one area that Mercury will be impacting. And the second is the 7th house, which, like I've illustrated with my life, is the first life partner, but it's also potential for future marriage partners, committed partners. So you might find that somebody comes in to your life who is a potential marriage partner when Mercury goes direct. I mean, you need other factors in the chart being activated as well, and it all depends on the personal configuration of your chart. But Mercury turning direct at the eclipse point is one of the factors for Pisces rising people that could indicate a potential new committed life partner entering into your life. You might not know that they're the committed life partner for months and months and months. They might just be a friend, new friend that you make, new acquaintance, but it's being activated, you know. So that's one possibility. But it could also be a business partnership that comes in. It could also be some sort of opportunity to experience culture, cultural refinement, going to revolutionary exhibitions, going to, you know, maybe a concert, maybe an art gallery, that somehow in doing this, you've got momentum to say, go and see that wonderful fashion exhibition or something. You suddenly, someone offers you a ticket, Mercury goes direct and someone gives you a ticket to go to this thing, and so you go and it changes your life, and your whole trajectory, your whole destiny is altered because of this one experience at a fashion exhibition or at a concert, or going to an art gallery, or some sort of cultural experience that you have that changes the trajectory of your life. And of course this is because Mercury is going direct. The momentum is moving forward from the 1st of August onwards regarding 7th house things for Pisces rising and 4th house things. So I hope that all makes sense, but this is what we are seeing playing out in the skies for everyone. Now, to conclude, I want to share with you, instead of praying like I usually conclude with a prayer, but I want to read you one of the things written at this revolutionary exhibition that I attended that really taught me a lot about who we are as humanity at this point in time, as incarnated divine beings. We're God incarnate here on the planet at this point in time to experience these things. And so I just, if it's all right with everybody, I want to conclude by just sharing with you this little piece from the exhibition that I attended. Imagine, John Lennon's song Imagine was playing as we moved through this part of the exhibition. Don't you know that you can count me out? The 1960s still generate heated debate. For many, the enduring change that took place from 1966 to 1970 was in attitude, a revolution in the head. People no longer believed that the authorities knew best. They increasingly trusted their own judgment, and they believed in the possibility of progress. Uranus is progress. Multiculturalism, feminism, gay liberation, environmentalism, and communality can all be traced back to 1960s idealism. Personal computing, the transformative technology of our time, had its genesis in the hippie ideals of sharing knowledge and seeking alternative communities. But it has also led to surveillance culture and the dark web. Pluto energy. Equally, environmentalism may have tackled 1960s problems, but the planet remains in a precarious state. Complete freedom of the individual, an ideal that now takes primacy in the West, paved the way for the collapse of communism, but has it also led inexorably to form a culture of from we into me? In the meantime, have we lost confidence in our power to shape the world? Pluto-Uranus energy just dripping from these statements. In the 1960s, people not only imagined creating a better future, Uranus is visualization and future orientation, but they took responsibility into their own hands for building it. Pluto, personal power being activated. And it just concludes by saying imagine. So I thank you for letting me share that with you. I was really empowered by this exhibition and the knowledge that we are channeling 1960s revolutionary energy at this moment, both from the past but also particularly from the future, from 2104, and what might unfold at that time. So thank you for joining me, and I look forward to sharing more interesting astrological insights with you next week.